for custody of her baby, Natasha.
Where are we today?
We're at the Aztec ruins. Aztec, New Mexico.
In New Mexico.
Right.
Oh, today is not the 26th, is it?
No,
it's the 24th. Okay.
Okay, this is number one. Number one.
Stop number one.
Well, that was their little stove down here.
I wonder if this was an apartment.
Yeah, there's a campfire and a seat. You know, it really is amazing that something that was built so long ago. Like
Big round building is down here.
what down there? That's we stopped here. There's the sign over there. Yeah, we go stopped here and then down. West room. For centuries, only a few sandstone walls jutted above a brush-covered mound, hinting at the large building beneath. About 150 yards beyond this pueblo is another large, unexcavated mound.
Oh, way over there.
Yeah.
See it way over there.
Which is closed to the public. This east ruin looks much as the west ruin did before excavation. Archaeologist Dory Morris began the first scientific excavations here in 1916. He and his crew removed the huge overburden to reveal the pueblo before you. About 450 adjacent rooms, 450 adjacent rooms, rising to 3 stories in places, enclose a central plaza.
Yeah, is it?
A large round semi-subterranean building, the Great Kiva, dominates the plaza. Within a few miles are scores of other structures built about the same. Notice the unusual horizontal bands of green stone.
Oh, yeah. Right there. And some
Present
logs.
just a few other walls in the pueblo. Outer walls were probably plastered with mud, obscuring any decorative stonework beneath, but also shielding the mud mortar from the eroding forces of rain.
Okay.
Do 4 of them.
This doorway and the next few you will pass through are modern, not original. Pot hunters in the 1880s punched holes through these walls, looted the contents within, and destroyed valuable information that might have been revealed to us. The trail passes through the inner rooms to the plaza.
You want to go ahead and do 4 first?
160 feet, longer than a football field. Most of the pueblo was built between 1111 AD and 1115 AD. Its architecture is similar to Pueblos in Chaco Canyon, 50 miles south of here. Even Earl Morris recognized the connection between these areas. During the 11th and 12th centuries, Chaco Canyon is the center of a large network of communities that archaeologists called outliers. Aztec is one of more than 100 outliers scattered throughout a broad region. This says you can trace remnants of the upper walls of an unusual tri-wall structure, one of a handful found in the southwest. The spaces between three concentric circular walls were partitioned into a series of small rooms, 8 in the inner ring, 14 in the outer.
Huh. Well, see, I don't really got all that in this small circle.
Most compartments were accessible only by roof hatchways. The central space is called a kiva and is marked by its own circular wall. Archaeologists generally agree it was used ceremonially. Some suggest that the locations of the three firewalls found at Aztec and the relationship to the middle of the buildings were important symbols in the ritual landscape of the settlement.
Go all the way through.
It says these original ceilings
They're
have
windows.
widely spaced pine beams set into solid masonry walls that provide support for the next story. These timbers were probably carried from higher elevations at least 20 miles to the north. The overlying cottonwood poles obtained nearby supported a layer of thin splints of juniper and rush matting. Finally, a heavy deposit of tamp mud topped this layer.
Came out.
Yeah.
It was the burial ground, huh?
Yeah. At least a dozen persons were buried there.
Boy, it was awful dark in here. I guess they had torches.
Yeah, maybe they did, but you don't see any signs of any smoke. Like it's in those others. Have hinged doors. They used mats, hides, stone slabs, or feather blankets to block drafty doorways. Here the mat and the framework of small plastered poles reduced the size of the doorway.
That must have been an access door to the outside.
Mm-hmm.
The little tiny space there.
Yeah. One second. Archways to modern residential apartment houses. Many today disagree with this analogy. Aztec may have been a ceremonial center used intermittently or seasonally for special activities. If so, residential use was less significant than first thought.
Residential use, you said?
Yeah, it may not have been. It may have been used for ceremonies. A ceremonial center. As opposed to living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it doesn't look like a likely place to live in. It's so hard to get in and out of.
Then it says, as you look to the center of the plaza, imagine you're a spectator at one of the ritual dances. Drummers emerge.
It's through here?
Yeah. Well, we're not at that point yet, but it's telling us what to think about when we get there.
Move to your left a little bit. Okay. I can't be over 3 feet high. Oh!
Did that hit your back?
You hit my back on that.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. This is the ceremonial plaza?
Yeah. From the rooftops, the ceremonial clowns start to sing and call out, "They're coming, the clouds and rainbows are coming. The deer and buffalo are coming. The corn maidens are coming. They are all coming." One by one, the dancers emerge from the kiva. They line up in the plaza, facing east, welcoming the sun and ready to dance, male and female. The two lines of human life. Slowly, the drummers begin to drum and chant their prayer of life. The men, adorned in cotton kilts, macaw feather. Digging beneath the plaza surface, he found round structures, some with thick deposits of broken pottery. The pottery designs in the lower, older stratum resemble Chaco Canyon pottery. The pottery in the upper, more recent layers resemble pottery found in the Mesa Verde region, about 40 miles northwest of here. There were two distinct occupations. The initial Chacoan period lasted through the first half of the 12th century. During the 13th century, people who shared traits with those in the Mesa Verde region used the pueblo. They may have been local inhabitants who never left the area, but who were influenced.
T-shaped door you're talking about?
Possibly during the Mesa Verde occupation. Note the differences in the masonry styles between the inner and outer walls.
Yeah, have a lot smaller blocks inside.
You've probably noticed several round rooms with special features in them. Similar rooms, called kivas, are used by Pueblo people today for sacred rituals and other special activities. For many years, archaeologists assumed that the rooms were used as kivas are today. Now some think that they were used for domestic purposes as well. Archaeologists are not certain who of the inhabitants, male or female, young or old, used these rooms. They were entered by a roof hatch that also allowed smoke from the central hearth to escape. A ventilator shaft worked like a chimney in reverse, drawing in fresh air to feed the fire. A stone slab or low wall placed between the hearth and ventilator shaft deflected the fresh air and reflected heat from the fire. Low pillars that rested on the bench circling the wall supported the roof. Compare this round kiva to the rectangular one.
Yeah. Looks like this must have been a floor, a different story here. See the little holes in the wall over there?
Well, yeah, somewhere back in here we were reading that some of them are 3 stories high.
Opening there. Over here?
I guess. These are rare and unique to Chacoan architecture. Including them in the structure was risky because they reduced the stability of the walls. The trail continues through a series of rooms in the east wing and then doubles back to the plaza. Was that
So these
supposed to
are-
be hollow in there? Or is it
Maybe
just
they make
eroded?
these as hollow.
Yeah, this one's hollow too. That's probably for the air ventilation. 17. Architectural changes from remodeling to occupations and recent preservation work are evident throughout the pueblo. For example, on the wall behind the fence. On the opposite wall, a vertical line marks the ceiling doorway.
Oh, right here.
The National Park Service has stabilized walls to delay deterioration.
Oh, there's the doorway.
Workers backfilled some rooms, replaced eroded mortar and missing stones, rebuilt portions of walls, and treated original wood. Many years of stabilization have altered the architecture and erased details of the prehistoric masonry. Although the building's layout and form have changed little, in many places the masonry and other features of the stabilized walls do not accurately reflect the work of the original builder. Big roof uses many more large timbers than horizontal roof. Some archaeologists believe most Chacoan cubes have flat roofs.
Before we go in there,
Well, it's a kiva. There are dozens of great kivas at Chaco, and many others exist throughout the Southwest. This is one of possibly 15 in the nearby area, an unusually dense concentration of great kivas. A great deal of organization, labor, and materials went into its construction. Most archaeologists agree it was a public building, built and used by people of this pueblo and others nearby for ceremonial or other community functions. This says, Morris uncovered only remnants of the original building. Rooms, common in Chaco and Pueblos, enclose the plaza on the south side. Cobbles are plentiful in the area. They were used also for wall foundations. Stabilization has obscured other materials used in these walls, including sandstone blocks and sticks laid horizontally and vertically in copious amounts.
Those cobblestones usually found in river bottoms.
Yeah. People that archaeologists cannot answer. For example, why did they leave? It's common for the people to use a pueblo for a generation or two and then move on. But by AD 1300, they had departed not only Aztec, but the entire San Juan Basin. Early archaeologists believed invaders drove them from their homeland. This theory lost support as researchers looked more to the environment for an explanation. An extensive drought from 1276 to 1299 certainly influenced their lives, although they had endured severe droughts before. Added to drought was an overuse.
Of water through the Animas River, which flows nearby. The similarity of design and excellent masonry point back to Chaco Canyon. Aztec was a Chaco outlier, a colony of sorts. Aztec's outer walls exhibit fine banded masonry. The best workmanship was usually reserved for perimeter walls, and may have made a statement of wealth and craftsmanship to all who approached the Pueblo. Aztec centerpiece is a great kiva. Small clan kivas were common throughout the region, but the great kivas were a Chacoan invention. They helped provide the social glue which held the community together. But it was all to no avail. Around 1130, a great drought struck. Already a desert, Chaco became a wasteland, and for some reason the people of Aztec also moved on. Chimney rocks. Twin towers that have resisted the ages. They stand as sentinels of the skyline, landmarks even in the mountainous terrain near Pagosa Springs in southern Colorado. Here in the forest at 7,600 feet elevation on the top of a mountain, the Anasazi constructed a city, the highest in all of Anasazi land. At first glance, nothing here seems to make sense. Planting and nurturing crops during the growing season would require daily descents to the fields over 1,000 feet below in the Piedras River Valley. Worse, the mesa is not only high, but dry. There is no water. All of the water demanded by the necessities of daily life had to be brought here potful by potful from the river below. Despite these difficulties, Chimney Rocks was home to possibly 2,000 people around the year 1100. For years, archaeologists who looked at the site could find only one logical reason to build here: defense. Like Masada in biblical Israel, it was a natural fortress. Only a narrow neck of land connects the ruins at the top of the mesa with the rest of the world. The cliffs drop off abruptly 300 to 500 feet at each side. Where the causeway is narrowest, we find the remains of what may have been a guardhouse or a gate structure. There is no doubt that here a few warriors could hold off an army. And there's more. Kivas, by tradition, were always built at least partially underground. The problem with Chimney Rocks is that there was no ground, only solid rock to build upon. Rather than break with tradition and build a kiva above ground, they would bring the ground to the kiva. And they did. They brought tons of earth from the valley floor to the mountain top. Chemical testing confirms the dirt is from the valley floor. There had to be something very special about Chimney Rocks that archaeologists were not seeing. And now we know. Archaeologists could not find the answer underground because the answer was in the sky. The spires. Chimney Rocks was a prehistoric astronomical observatory, and at the same time, a huge computer in stone. It was a platform high in the sky to observe the cycles of the moon. To the Anasazi, it was also a shrine. Most people are familiar with the annual solstice cycle of the sun. From December 21st to June 21st, each sunrise migrates toward the north on the horizon. But few people even today are aware that the moon undergoes a similar cycle. Unlike the annual cycle, the Anasazi were making great advances. They were forced to abandon everything. The Southwest is full of enigmas, such as the origins of this pictograph, the All-American Man in Canyonlands National Park. The red, white, and blue is similar to the U.S. flag, but painted maybe 1,000 years ago. We don't know. We do know that one time these ancient peoples made the Southwest deserts come to life. They lived in places where none of us can live today without the aid of deep bore wells or trucked-in water. They survive where we cannot. At one time, these lonely barren ridges, caves, and ledges were alive with the sounds of children, the smells of fires and cooking food. The night was not black. Civilization came here 800 years ago, and fires burned into the evening hours. The Anasazi, Mogollon, Hohokam, and others were perhaps too successful. With their technology, they pushed the land to the limit of what it could provide. And when it could provide no more, they were forced to abandon everything and move on. There may be a lesson to be learned from ancient America.
And the other one has to come
Well, Chaco might. As long as we don't say pumpkin tree. Yeah. We don't say anything like that. Yeah. You learn the whole thing. Yeah, you learn the whole thing.
Survival seems impossible. Here the winds announce a passing presence. They call themselves the people. Moving onto these high desert plateaus thousands of years ago. Echoes of a distant time retell their story. For centuries, the people crisscrossed the deeply etched drainages of the Colorado and San Juan rivers, evolving from wandering bands of hunters and gatherers into a remarkable civilization. They built amazing stone cities, modeled after the natural forms of their habitat. Then, 800 years ago, they mysteriously slipped away. Now empty, these weathered ruins haunt our imagination. Archaeologists call their culture Anasazi, the ancient ones. Who were these people? Why did they build here, amidst this barren vastness? Do not look for a remote, primitive people. Interrogate the landscape. The earth reveals their story. They have left a powerful mosaic, fragments of a people, place, and time. Reach through the layers, absorb their echoes, listen to their ancient legends, told and retold by their Pueblo descendants. The Creator speaks through the rocks and stones, singing moon, and the great breathing mountains. Everything is alive. Living spirits of our ancient ancestors. In the beginning, there was only the Creator, the dark, infinite void. Three previous worlds were created and then destroyed by fire, ice, and flood. Those of one heart with the Creator were saved, protected in the underground world by the ant people. They taught us to be industrious and showed us the proper way of life. Respect, harmony, love. Finally, the last great flood subsided. From the bowels of the earth, he climbed up through the Sipa pools into the light of this, the fourth world. The dark purple light rises in the north. A yellow light rises in the east. Then we, the flowers of the earth, come forth to receive a long life of joy. As we emerge, the God of the underworld and the caretaker of this new land greeted the people. He gave us different languages and colors of skin. He commanded 4 great directional migrations.
Do you have it on mute?
Begins at Chaco Canyon, located about 50 miles to the south.
Yes, I did.
This area was occupied for about 900 years, from the 5th to the 13th century, by people of the Anasazi culture. These people must have expended a great deal of energy in construction activities, erecting massive communal dwellings and ceremonial chambers of fine masonry. The canyon eventually contained about 400 towns and villages. Of these settlements, the town of Pueblo Bonito is thought to have been the seat of wealth and power
Chaco
in the
Canyon.
Chacoan world.
Yeah.
Agriculture provided the primary source of food. Beans, corn, squash, and pumpkin were cultivated by the men in the canyon fields, irrigated through a series of diversion dams, canals, and ditches. Perhaps some cotton was also grown for its use making fabrics. To add meat to their diet, the men hunted game. Remains of rabbit, deer, antelope, and an occasional bighorn sheep or elk in treasures. Today, these settlements are called Chaco outliers. Among them are Quinyaa, Pueblo Pintado, and Aztec ruins. An elaborate road network was also constructed to link these villages and towns to Chaco Canyon. Somehow, a people who knew nothing of the wheel and raised no pack animals to lighten their loads made these highways of consistent measure and directional accuracy. It was along one of these highways, called the Great North Road in modern times, that several hundred immigrants from Chaco Canyon journeyed, carrying in their arms and on their heads those items they would need a new agricultural community on ruin. For the next 10 years, the people of the community built living quarters and storage rooms, ceremonial chambers, and work areas by a preconceived design and under the direction of master planners and engineers. An example of the extent of the planning is the massive foundations which underlie the walls. After the locations of the walls were laid out, 6-foot deep trenches, 3 feet wide, were dug and then filled with large cobbles and adobe. On the foundations were erected the typical Chacoan walls of fine hand-cut sandstone masonry, laid in even bands on each side of a rubble core. This was done with meticulous care, even though the masonry was later plastered. A patch of plaster still shows in the lower center of this slide. They used only the best structural materials, traveling up to 50 miles to get the lumber of their choice, and more than 5 miles to quarry sandstone of good quality. The length, diameter, and strength of the stately ponderosa pine made it an excellent choice for roof beams. On top of these beams were laid a matting of small cottonwood poles, then a covering of juniper bark, and finally a thick layer of soil. This combination made a strong, dry roof of 50 feet that was home and workplace for hundreds of men, women, and children. As shown here, the original rooms were quite spacious, 10 feet by 14 feet with 12-foot ceilings. Only 2 kivas or ceremonial chambers were erected by the original builders. The largest is the Great Kiva, which is located in the plaza. The community leaders were in charge of the ceremonies which took place within. Rites varied from high religious occasions to social get-togethers. The 2-story tower kiva, located in the Pueblo, was probably one of the first units built. It rests upon a huge platform of cobbles and adobe, which, supported by buttresses, raises the kiva to its present height. The top of the platform...
The Heritage Park is over that way, let's see. You may begin your walking tour one of 2 ways. You can follow the asphalt path until you can use an observatory deck, and culminates in Heritage Park in the beginning of the Salmon Run Trail. Please know that the path is steep. People not accustomed to the altitude, blah, blah, blah. For visitors who prefer to drive directly to Heritage Park and the Salmon Run, a road leaving the west side of the parking lot will take you to the gravel parking lot. You want to do that? Or you want
Yeah, we has to sing.
He has to sing. What does that mean?
Oh, that's Jude.
Holistic. Later, archaic hunters and gatherers continued a nomadic lifestyle, pursuing deer, elk, and small game, as well as collecting a variety of wild plants. 2,000 years ago, the pit house-dwelling basket makers lived in the area, practicing limited agriculture and hunting. Increased reliance on farming stimulated a sedentary lifestyle and the emergence of Pueblo culture. Colonists from Chaco Canyon directed the building of Salmon Pueblo between the years AD 1088 and 1084. What is now called the Great North Road stretched directly south for 60 miles to link the Salmon Pueblo with the Anazizi Cultural Center at Chaco. The Navajo Indians threaded their way through the Rocky Mountains and into New Mexico sometime before the 1500s. Look at the fence. You think that was original?
Oh, I doubt that. Wall's about to fall over.
Oh, there's heat in there.
Probably in the summertime they let people go in there.
Probably, because there's a refrigerator in there. Looks like that one
counter.
in Frontier Village or over at Disney World. Whoops. Been filled in.
Not a real well anymore. Well, that wood doesn't look very old.
No. Now, this was...
A lot of critters walk through there, from buffalo to raccoons.
You think that's...
Hope that wasn't theatrics. I believe it was.
Okay, here's the storage. Steel.
What that is down there is for storage.
Anything. Well, we'll just walk. I can't follow this.
It stays cold this far north. What kind of house?
They call it a pit house. It's an underground house.
Oh, this is the one you read about.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to see. Cool in here.
Boy, you can feel the temperature drop.
Yeah.
Well, it's not very far below ground level.
No, it isn't.
Then they just pile dirt up around the sides.
This is open to the west. That's what I mean about the
Maybe they close this off in the wintertime.
common form of dwelling. These semi-underground houses were very efficient, conserving heat in winter and generally remaining cool in summer. The entrance to this pit house is gained through an antechamber, a common feature of the earlier structures. Later in the an earthen bench-like feature is built around the main room. It may have been used for storage or possibly for sleeping. As you return outside, follow the path to the back of the pit house to see examples of storage.
Oh, that's those pits we saw.
It's called cyst. Okay, there we go. Used for storing surplus food. The pits flared into a belt, then hot stones were dropped inside to boil the water and cook the food. Pottery fire pit. The basket
Oh,
maker
those
people,
those holes over there, and
Yeah.
over there.
The basket maker people found plants that we may think of as weeds growing among their cultivated crops to be as valuable as the corner squash. Wild plants such as ground cherry, rice grass, amaranth, and beeweed may have been encouraged to grow because archaeologists have found evidence that these plants were collected for greens and seeds.
Looks like they had things growing in here this summer.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be for shade. This wiki up.
I guess.
Looks like that's about all it would provide.
Live in the teepees.
Brush shelter. So this is that shady area where they grind the corn.
Oh,
Since we're going around it backwards.
yeah.
Is it open at the top?
Well, a little bit.
Pretty sturdy teepee.
Okay, let's find out. Maybe these were actual pictures in the stone and they painted them to make them more obvious.
Yeah.
Let's see, fork stick Hogan. Let's paint that.
Tumbleweed. Up there.
This is a Navajo Indian. This is a woman's.
Shelter, I guess. Oh, yeah, looks like she's been weaving. The world is a sweat lodge.
Well, you can find it.
You mean they had saunas back in those days?
Yeah.
Oh, this is where they grind the corn.
This is an outdoor oven. Building replicates a sweat lodge. Hot rocks are brought into the lodge, and cold water is thrown on them to create steam. Participants often burn sagebrush to add a wonderful aroma to the purifying environment.
Well, you don't want to really peek inside because it takes away from.
Yeah. Have it locked. Wonder if there was a front door.
Look through this window.
Go around to the other side. Okay, this was the house. Looks like that's some of the original walls.
Well, both of these windows are angled in opposite directions. Is that a whale? Is that a whale? Alright, this battery is showing bad. So I'm going to have to be very selective.
We'll put the other one in there. That must be the good one. There it is.
And I'll use this one just to scan the area, then I'll take the good one with me. This is Fungo Pavi, it says. Little remnants from old buildings there. Another one right in there. This is toward the direction of the visitor center. This is the route we're going down the canyon. This is an artist's perception or what it probably looked like back when it was active. Pueblo Bonito, that's where we're getting ready to go. Stop number 1 is up ahead.
Well, I already read that. What you talking about?
You read stop number 1? Well, these are all little tiny pieces they stuck in here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Big pieces of rock that fell off the cliff.
Look at a wide crack.
This rock fell in 1941.
It measured about 97 feet high, 140 feet long, 34 feet thick, and weighed an estimated 30,000 tons. Looking along the canyon wall behind you, you will see a massive vertical boulder that resembles threatening rock before it fell.
Oh,
that
that's
one.
this one over here.
That one. See?
Oh, yeah. That one probably falling before too long.
The Anasazi builders chose this location, even though they recognized the threat of a fall. They built a supporting masonry terrace below the rock, which slowed the erosion of soil from beneath the rock, delaying its collapse. To your right, you can see what remains of this terrace.
A lot of rocks fell in here. Well, here's spot number 3. This is talking about these falling rocks again.
The imposing cliffs surrounding the canyon provided the stone from which the Chacoans built the impressive structures that are found here. 2 types of stone were used for construction. The first was a hard, dark brown stone quarried from the upper canyon walls.
This has got some sparkling stuff.
The second
Mixed
was
in.
a blocky light tan stone that is found along the lower walls of the canyon. The laminated dark brown stone used in earlier construction.
It's barely balancing on there.
Yeah.
Well, if this had fallen when the Indians were here, they wiped out a bunch of them.
Design of Pueblo Bonito. As with most of the other great houses in the canyon, the layout was the result of several buildings it was not a single construction event. From initial construction in the middle of the 9th century, 300 years elapsed before the present form of Pueblo Bonito was realized. The number of rooms in the structure suggests that many people lived here.
How many?
Many. The first archaeologists working in Chaco estimated a population of 20,000 to 30,000 for the entire country. These estimates were based on the number of rooms in all of the known sites in Chaco. Continuing archaeological research, population estimates have been lowered to between 4,400 and 6,000 people. The lower line is broken cross-section. The height of the first story determined the width of the wall. Wall width decreased with each additional story, lightening the load on a massive face. This type of wall construction ensured strong and stable walls at heights of 4 or 5 stories. Increasing wall widths also demonstrated advanced planning on the part of the builders. The second and third stories were planned before the first story was built. Great houses were built more substantially than other Anasazi structures in the San Juan Basin, but it is not certain for what purpose. Substantial walls were necessary for multi-story doorways, so access to the new arc of rooms was not possible. There were interior doorways between all the new rooms and several doorways in the new exterior back wall. Oh, these are doorways. When these rooms were excavated, many of them contained shelves or platforms across the short axis of the room. Thin wide platforms were constructed midway between the walls and extending from the side wall about 4 to 5 feet towards the center of the room. One interpretation of these platforms is that they function as shelves, measurably increasing the storage capacity. From the American Museum of Natural History were the first to excavate at Pueblo Bonito. After they completed their excavations in 1899, Wetherell remained in the canyon, homesteading and operating a trading post until his death in 1910. Wetherell and Pepper began their excavations in Pueblo Bonito in 1896.
This is the first exterior wall and second one. This was built 1100 AD, 1000 AD or 1100 AD?
Yeah. Do you allow us to go down here? It's not blocked off.
Are you looking for one for your purse
No.
section?
The oldest section, built in 850 to the late 900s. This early construction consisted of about 100 ground floor, 100, and upper story rooms, including some sections that were 3 stories high. 3 to 5 round pit structures, kivas, were built in front of the multi-story crescent-shaped block of rooms, completing this stage of construction. As with most great houses, this early section was incorporated into the bulk of the structure during subsequent stages of construction. Several different masonry styles are represented in these walls, including the earliest type that was used in great house construction. Identified as Type 1, it is distinguished by thin rectangular-shaped pieces of sandstone laid in mud mortar, used for a similar feature. Along the front of the room blocks, large fire pits were dug, and several kivas were constructed in the plaza. The archaeological record provides few clues to the specific use of this plaza area, but based upon modern-day use, a great deal of activity took place here. Today, plazas provide a place for people in the community to gather for informal activities as well as ceremonial events. The Plaza of Pueblo Bonito is divided into eastern and western halves by a central dividing wall that is aligned with true north.
Central dividing wall.
That is aligned with true north.
Do you see it?
There was only one entryway into the plaza, which is located in the southeast corner of the western half of the plaza.
All right, that would be over there.
The present opening in the eastern section resulted when a room collapsed. When the original entrance was first constructed, it was over 7 feet wide. During a later construction phase, it was remodeled and reduced to a door less than 3 feet wide, and even this small door was subsequently blocked. One of the original excavators interpreted this as a defensive measure, suggesting there was a pressing need for this deliberate and progressive closing in of the pueblo.
Well, that's should be north in this direction. I don't see that central wall.
Oh, isn't this due north? Right now?
No. That's southwest.
That's
That's southwest over there where that opening is,
It is.
I think. I think that's west looking through that that pass over there.
Round subterranean structure is a great kiva. They are
What kind of kiva?
great.
Okay.
They are characteristic of great house construction and include a set of highly standardized architectural features. These include a low masonry bench around the base of the room, raised floor vaults, a raised firebox and deflectors, pits for seating 4 wooden posts or masonry pillars used to support the roof, and in any chamber an entryway at the plaza level of the subterranean structure. The size, standardization in construction, and investment of labor exhibited in great kivas indicates they may have served a highly specialized public function that met community-wide needs. In the plaza of Pueblo Bonito, there were at least 3 great kivas.
See where this back wall was caved in by that big rock fall.
Yeah.
See there it extends there. They didn't plan for 1,000 years ahead.
And that area was 3 stories high, they said.
Yeah. Another passageway blocked off.
My mother didn't like it either.
Why?
Why? She thought I'd get a disease.
Oh.
The term kiva is used to refer to round rooms used for ceremonial purposes. This term has been applied to the round rooms found at Chaco and other prehistoric sites in the southwest. Although it is not known whether the prehistoric kiva was used exclusively for ceremony, this architectural form dates back to the earliest Anasazi pit houses around 400 AD. Neil Judd, who excavated at Pueblo Bonito from 1921 through 1927, identified several features of kivas in Chaco that distinguish them from kivas or other Anasazi settlements. The features Judd referred to include a low masonry bench encircling the base of the room, masonry boxes built on the bench as roof supports, a fire pit, a subfloor ventilating system, and a subfloor vault. Since Judd's time, this list has been expanded. Another characteristic of Chaco kivas is their enclosure in square rooms. The kivas in this section of Pueblo Bonito exhibit all of these features. I don't see ventilation.
Well, there's some areas. There's one area there that looks like it's been filled in.
That looks like that has tree trunks on it.
Yeah, it looked like it was a subfloor. Well, maybe it was deeper back then. There should be some vents down deeper.
Oh, What's the tour?
Well, it's not 2 o'clock. It's probably, yeah, bunch of old folks up there. We need to get away from them. Be a bad influence. I'm supposed to go down through that little hole there, huh?
What you have? Oh my goodness. I guess it's the way we go. That's the way the arrow pointed. Look at that lady.
Oh, it just hit my head.
This computer going to really hit you. The lady must have had a hard time coming through here. In this room, there are remnants of original plaster as well as primary and secondary roofing beams, known in Spanish as vigas and latilas. Vigas are primary beams and carry the weight of the roof. Latilas are secondary supports and were laid perpendicular to the primary beams. Split shakes of juniper wood, bark, and matting were then laid over the secondaries. A layer of clay mortar, or packed adobe, was applied over this, and the surface was completed with a final layer of sand. Difficult to determine prehistoric buildings. One of the ways archaeologists try to determine room function is through architectural features found at the time of excavation. These may include sandstone slabs used to grind corn or grains, milling bins, or fire pits. Another is through examining the artifacts that are recovered and studying their placement upon excavation. The large rooms in this section of the pueblo would have been inadequate as domestic dwellings. Because of their size, they would have been difficult to heat, and they would have been dark because they are interior rooms. When these rooms were excavated, most of them lacked domestic features. The lack of room features, such as kneeling beds or hearths, and the lack of artifacts. This was the most extensive building phase in the canyon, and one of the last. There are several methods for dating and identifying building phases, including the science of tree ring dating, known as dendrochronology, and the analysis of masonry styles and ground plans. The way walls meet or abut is another method for identifying construction sequences.
Must be this corner over here you're talking about.
Yeah.
Two
Abutting
periods.
walls do not interconnect at corners, but instead are flush with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Walls that abut one another were constructed at different times, while walls with stones that interconnect at the corners were typically built at the same time.
14, yeah, this is way interior.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to use torches for light.
Oh, that's why they have...
That's the reason they're blackened, maybe.
Yeah. Because they use torches.
Yeah, those sticks could probably tell a lot of stories.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, number 16.
And watch that the guy looked, she disappeared.
There are at least 4 types of doorways that have been used in great house construction. Some small doors with high cells, large doors with low cells, corner doorways, and T-shaped doors. The most common type is a small door with a high cell, and the most elegant is the T-shaped door. Although the meaning of the T-shape is not clear, their placement appears to be restricted to...
What are you doing in there?
Hey, it's nice and air conditioned. Feels good.
It's dark in there. Reserve ceiling, that's original?
Yeah, in 1991, cores and samples were taken from these beams for tree ring dating, indicating roof construction sometime after that date. Okay, if you turn around and look above,
Of 18? Look above?
Turn around and look above.
Okay.
And to the left of the rooms you have just left, you will see a corner doorway. This is an unusual type of door opening used in great house construction. Only 7 are known in Pueblo Bonito, and all of them were built during later construction sequences in the eastern part of the Pueblo. So we're in the east part of it, honey. The rays of sunlight pass through this opening and strike the opposite corner of the room behind it. Throughout the canyon, there are other architectural features as well as modified landforms that correspond with astronomical events. This knowledge of astronomy seems to have been an integral part of the construction plan of Chaco. Okay, so this...
Sun rises in the winter through there.
East.
That-
That's east?
No, the east must be over here. If the sun rises, shines through that, because this
okay.
this is a wall
Pass
over here.
through this opening
Yeah,
and strike the opposite corner. So this is west.
yeah.
This is west. Okay. That's west where our car is. This,
Is where that pass is over there.
yeah, that's where I think. I guess. Although they contain trash, they also include sand and construction debris. These rectangular mounds. Rectangular mounds are enclosed by masonry walls raised about 10 feet above the surrounding ground level.
Go up there. I want to take a picture of you taking a walk through the 4 states.
Oh, jeez. She's
Or
straddling.
do you like her? You straddle all of them. Which states are you going to straddle?
Well, you have to tell me which ones you're I
Okay.
can only do 2 at a time.
You're straddling Utah and Colorado right now.
Okay.
Now you're in Arizona and New Mexico.
Yeah. Well, here, right there, you're on all 4.
Okay. You're covering 4 states.
Yeah, right there. You need to go stand on them.
I don't need to.
You're just gonna walk them, man.
I'm just walking around them. I'm doing the same thing.
Okay.
Okay, there's Colorado. And Utah.
It's cold up here.
Arizona. And New Mexico. And all the Indians over there trying to sell us something. Okay, we've done it. Are you ready to go?
Yeah, it's too cold up here. I should have put my jacket on.
We'll see what those Indians are trying to sell.
Oh, look at the lamps.
Yeah.
Those are pretty.
Because you know, a lot of times, you know,
An information center, a demonstration center, you know, a big old hexagon type office.
This is shiprock created by a volcano. About 3 meters depth. There's other film type rocks.
High atop a stone mesa, with a spacious lookout over a Morrow valley, this once pristine vantage point did not escape the eyes of a culture. It is believed that as the Chaco civilization collapsed, some of the inhabitants ended up in this region known as Cibola. Settling at increasingly higher elevations, perhaps to offset the drought of the latter 13th century, communities such as this one, known as Atsina, were built. Here, a large pueblo with a central courtyard became as defensive as it was practical. The outer walls were unbroken and 2 to 3 stories high. Entrance to the pueblo was most likely with ladders that scaled those walls. When the ladders were raised, the village became quite like a fort. This multi-storied pueblo had about 850 rooms and possibly 1,500 people at the peak of its occupation. One striking aspect at Atsina was the discovery of what appears to be a rectangular kiva, perhaps suggesting some influence from the nearby Mogollon Indians. To the Spanish conquistadores who began to frequent the region, this jagged shard of sandstone would help carry some of their history of exploration in this new world. El Morro lies along the ancient road between Zuni and Acoma pueblos. As natural occurrences would have it, A pool of water has existed at the base of this cliff for perhaps thousands of years. Supplied by rainwater and snowmelt caught in the labyrinth of rock formations on top, the water cascades into this 12-foot depression, 200,000 gallons of water when full. To the Spaniards, it became known as El Estanque del Peñol, the pool by the Great Rock. With this pool, it's easy to see why this became a favorite resting place and campsite. Perhaps the pool also solves some of the mystery of what the villagers of Atsina did for water centuries before the Europeans ever discovered El Morro. The face of the cliff was apparently suited for the carving of petroglyphs, as can be seen in the ancient Anasazi inscriptions found here. Surely, as the Spaniards relaxed near the walls, these petroglyphs triggered their desire to communicate also. Travels through the area were turning out to be a lot less glamorous than the stories originally heard and were about to be recorded on these walls. For the next 300 years, this was going to be a popular spot. The oldest and most famous mark cast here still remaining is that of Don Juan de Oñate, then Adelantado, or advancer of the colony now known as New Mexico. In Spanish lettering of that time, the message reads,
"There passed this way Adelantado, Don Juan de Oñate, from the discovering of the South Sea on the 16th of April, 1605.
Oñate actually discovered the Gulf of California, but this carved record of Spanish mobility upon the land was to draw more passers-by to communicate in like fashion. Weary and broke from his travelings and a 7-year commission as Adelantado, Oñate nonetheless will be remembered as much for this signature as the Pilgrims are for Plymouth Rock some 15 years later. These walls record the very clash that was sadly mounting, an inscription bearing witness by Luján.
Passed this way in 1632 to avenge the death of Father Letrado.
By this time, the Spaniards' search for gold and riches had evolved into colonization of the land and conversion of the natives to Christianity. In the missionary zeal of his own faith, Father Letrado had come from the Salinas Pueblos to Zuni and tried to force the natives to attend Mass, and had died a martyr. 12 years after the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, history is again recorded on the rock.
He was the General Don Diego de Vargas, who conquered for our holy faith and for the royal crown all of New Mexico at his own expense, year 1692.
The Spaniards were back in the land, but not without the realization that their commissioned harvest of souls was perhaps over. Spaniards were finding it increasingly dangerous to leave the relative safety of their settlements. Almost 40 years later, the proof of that spiritual conflict again found its way to El Morro.
Year of 1716, on the 26th of August, passed by here Don Felix Martinez, Governor and Captain General of this realm, to the reduction and conquest of the Moqui.
Governor Martinez confidently wrote this before arriving at his destination. In reality, the Hopis were unwilling to accept Spanish domination, and the expedition returned unsuccessful to Santa Fe.
Pasó por aquí Miguel Alfaro.
Passed by here, Miguel Alfaro. There is no date, but by studying the letter style, scholars think it was done around 1700. In old Spanish documents, the name of Ramón García Jurado can be found. It is also found at El Morro.
On the 25th of the month of June of this year of 1709, passed by here on the way to Zuni, Ramón García Jurado.
Some 20 years later, he would be the alcalde mayor, or mayor, of a district near Santa Fe. To the right of the Jurado inscription is one that reads,
By here passed Pedro Romero on the 22nd of August, year of 1751.
The phrase "passed by here" or "passed this way" was either a common usage in Spanish of the times or simply copied as the style used at El Morro by the travelers who temporarily claimed this rock. This Andrés Romero inscription of 1774 is important because it is the last Spanish marking here before the coming of the Americans in 1849. The gap of any inscription whatsoever between 1774 and 1849 tells of the struggles New Mexico saw politically as it changed hands twice. With zealous desire did making a record of everything in sight drive one Lieutenant James H. Simpson of the Topographical Engineers to rediscover El Morro from decades of obscurity. With artist Richard H. Kern in tow, these two hastened to copy the inscriptions still remaining upon the face. Task accomplished, the first English inscriptions also became a part of history, as did their mistake, the likes of which die hard here. Their names appear on the east wall as well. In 1857, a revolutionary test of desert transportation appeared at El Morro. Lieutenant Edward Beale headed up the expedition to try camels as a means of replacing the horse on mapping trips through the region. Not unlike earlier travelers, these fellows were not to be outdone, and as the decades wore on, the carvings began to take on a more professional look. This is perhaps the most impressive carving on the rock. E. Penn Long of Baltimore, Maryland, probably done between 1850 and 1862. Mr. Long was a member of this expedition. In charge of the camels, P. Gilmer Breckenridge was also to leave his mark, block lettering that stresses expert craftsmanship. Members of the first emigrant train to California tried this route in 1858. This party of 40 families and equipment were attacked by Mojave Indians at the Colorado River. Several were killed. The survivors returned to Albuquerque, walking most of the way. As they passed by El Morro, some of the survivors also left their marks. The letters UPR are written after some of the carvings. The Union Pacific Railroad ran a survey by here in 1868. The project was never carried through. 25 miles to the north, the development of the Santa Fe Railroad ended the chance of El Morro becoming a permanent stopping place on a major line. Around the walls of the pole, names can also be seen carved into the rock. Most are the work of emigrants and soldiers, and date from 1850 to 1900. There are many other inscriptions here too, some of which very little is known, or nothing at all. Inscriptions that with few words would later tell stories in our minds.
This is El Morro. Don't put that in your pocket.
It's a mushroom.
Oh. Be up there growing out of those rocks.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's getting moisture up here.
The rock looks like it's about to slide off. During rainy weather, you have a waterfall that comes out of that cave up there.
Yeah.
See the dark marks down the side? They are describing that waterfall from melting snow. So the pool must be right over there.
You can see it right at the base.
Yeah. This water comes rushing down through here. And over here, still wet. So this was an encampment area back in those days, near the pond, or pool. You saw this sign over here that said it was illegal to mark on the walls.
I ain't talking about us, I meant historic inscription.
Oh, historically, yeah.
All in here, since this is where they came.
Yeah. Maybe they did. Wore off. Well, this is site 2. Did we miss one?
I never saw one.
Well, that's a big pool. It goes way back there.
You didn't see one either?
No. Might have been up there on that ledge. You get echoes in here. Yeah, that boulder was there, that painting up there.
Okay, on one that we missed, if you look closely at the rock about 12 feet above the ground, you will see some notches cut into the sandstone.
Scream a little bit so we can hear your echo. Yell like you did last night in your sleep.
Oh dear. These are footholds.
Hey! What? What are footholds?
The notches cut into the sandstone.
I didn't see any of those.
Well, we're supposed to look closely at the rock about 12 feet above the ground from number 1. And we never saw number 1.
Okay.
So let's go on to number 2.
This is number 2.
Now you see why travelers stop here. There is no spring. The pool is fed largely by rain falling in July, August, and September, and by melting snows. When full, it is about 12 feet deep and holds about 200,000 gallons of water. If you look closely around the walls at about eye level, even on the far side, you can see names carved into the rock.
Oh.
Oh, there's some.
Oh, yeah.
This is where the binoculars keep coming handy.
There were probably names over there, but they just sloughed off. You can see how that peels.
Wow.
That sandstone, unless it's etched in real deep.
Most of these date from 1850 to 1900 and were the work of immigrants and soldiers. How did they get over there? You're talking about over there.
Oh, over there on the other side.
Mm-hmm. In the early days, there was probably a sandbank around the edge, and people could ride or walk around the pool. In 1942, a heavy rock fall filled the water hole. When the sand and rubble were removed, the old dam was reinforced and lined with concrete.
What year was the rock fall?
1942.
Oh.
Three right there.
Yeah, there's some more going down here.
Well, I imagine these are more recent.
Yeah. Petroglyphs.
And there's people saying it's in 1853.
1853, that's a lot of Oregon Trail people moving through here. Or Spanish Trail. Look at the fancy writing over here. It's one of these newer ones, 1866.
That's the one that they had in the...
Oh yeah, that was in the film, wasn't it?
Yeah, E-Pen Hong. Baltimore.
Huh.
There's someone else up there from Ohio, R.C. Logan. Ohio, 1866.
Those are the Indian markings there. The Indians?
Petroglyphs are made by incising or pecking designs into the sandstone. Incised drawings are created by scratching lines in the rock using a hard tool. Peck drawings are made by striking the rock with a hammerstone and gradually chipping away the outside surface of the rock. El Morrow contains both styles. Mr. Long, whose signature is one of the most elegantly crafted inscriptions, was a member of Lieutenant Edward F. Beale's 1857 caravan that was testing the usefulness of camels in crossing the deserts of the Southwest. Two other members of Beale's caravan signed their names to the right and around the corner. Mr. Ingle in block print and Mr. Bryan in script.
Yeah,
Ingle was Beale's second in command.
There's Ingle.
And Bryan.
I don't see Bryan. Oh, there he is down here, just to the right of it. Right there.
Virginia Military Institute. Rode across the continent to California as a young man. Later, in 1857, Breckinridge was in charge of the 25 camels used by Lieutenant Edward Beale in his expedition. Breckinridge arrived back in Virginia and enlisted in the Civil War. He was killed during a skirmish at Kenyon's Landing, Virginia in 1863.
1863?
Yeah, so just 4 years after he was here.
Yeah.
Number 6 talks about the E-Pen Long inscription.
Long's inscription? That's the one back there we've already seen, is it? Well, they're describing it way over here? Looks like a Frenchman here. Instead of French, huh?
Note the word año, which means year. 1646.
Well, I must be looking at the wrong one.
Well, I haven't.
Where do you see it?
I haven't.
Must be right there, but real faint.
Well, anyway. Round black disc along the bottom of the rock are section markers.
Oh, I see that.
Each one is lettered, and they divide the face of the cliff into sections so the inscriptions can be easily located. This inscription says, well, I can't say that. Translated, it reads, on the 25th of the month of June of this year of 1709, passed by here on the way to Zuni, Raymond Garcia Gerardo.
Well, look at the long name here.
Oh, this is the governor's, remember?
This, okay.
That must be.
Look at that fancy curlicue on the bottom of his letter.
You can find Senor Gerardo's name in old Spanish documents, this guy. In 1728, he was the alcalde mayor of the Caries district, not far south of Santa Fe. To your right is a blackened inscription which, translated, reads, "By here passed Pedro Romero." Oh, I guess this isn't the same one. Pedro Romero, the 22nd of August, year of 1751. Little is known about this Spanish gentleman. Of the year 1774.
Okay, I can make out Romero now.
This Spaniard is unknown. The date is important because it is apparently the last Spanish inscription before the coming of the Americans in 1849. Similarly, the 4 mountain sheep and the bear claw.
Well, I can't
This
pick
looks
those
like
out.
a bear claw.
Oh, yeah. You don't see those mountain sheep.
They're over here.
Over here? Yeah. Oh, yeah,
with
there
the
they are.
inscription above it. The Spanish one above.
Many Anasazi petroglyphs depict familiar animals of the early inhabitants of the region. These carvings may have been drawn to bring good fortune in a hunt. This suggests that mountain sheep and bear were once plentiful in the area. The Spanish inscription above the petroglyph reads, "We passed here, the Sergeant Major and Captain Juan de Archuleta, and Adjutant Diego Martin Barba and Ensign Yenojos, the year of 1636. The Sergeant Major,
1636. What?
the Sergeant Major was not an enlisted man, as now he was an officer in direct command of troops.
1636, that's about the oldest we've seen so far, isn't it?
Yes, sir. The ensign was the standard bearer, the oldest and most famous inscription at El Morro. It was done by the first governor of New Mexico, Don Juan de Arnett, in 1605, 15 years before the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock.
Huh.
In 1604, Arnett rode south with 30 men to the Gulf of California. On his return the next year, he made his inscription, which reads, "Passed here by the Governor Don Juan de Arnett from the discovery of the Sea of the South on the 16th of April, 1605. By Sea of the South, Arnett meant Gulf of California, an arm of the Pacific Ocean. He was not the first Spaniard to see it, of course. This was not Arnett's first visit to El Morro. On December 13, 1598, he passed here from Zuni with a group of Spanish soldiers traveling to the Rio Grande via Acoma.
Well, those are really up high. Is P.H. Orton, Captain, 1866.
Continuing along the cliff, among the many inscriptions and petroglyphs, you can see a church, some stars, crucifixes, a cavalry flag, and the prominent inscription of R.H. Orton, Adjutant General of California after the Civil War. Oh, up there.
Yeah, I got his.
The long panel of Anasazi petroglyphs contain most of the common petroglyph styles found in the Southwest. It is difficult to tell what...
Location, township and range, and section number.
The long panel of Anasazi petroglyphs contain most of the common petroglyph styles found in the Southwest. It is difficult to tell what the ancient drawings mean. They are not a written language such as we use today. Most scholars believe petroglyphs were made for ceremonial reasons, possibly to bring good fortune to the activities and people of the Pueblo.
Well, I haven't seen the petroglyph.
Right up there.
Oh, way up there. Okay. The hands with that lines drawn across them.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. What that means.
Bear claw up there.
And below that, some kind of prey.
Yeah. There's a hand and a, looks like a flag over here.
A flag? I don't see a flag. Oh yeah. Inscriptions. The ground level was higher then, and shown by this tree.
Oh yeah.
As shown by this tree, which surely did not begin growing on top of the mound. Done by one of New Mexico's most famous frontier governors, this inscription reads, "Here was the General Don Diego de Vargas, who conquered for our holy faith and for the royal crown all of New Mexico at his own expense, year of 1692. 12 years earlier, in 1680, the Pueblo Indian revolt had taken place. Many Spanish were killed and the remainder fled to El Paso. In 1692, the Putnam finally reached the Colorado River, only to be attacked by the Mojave Indians. Several of the group were killed and practically all of their equipment stolen or burned. The survivors, including the elderly Udall and wife, returned to Albuquerque walking most of the way. They passed El Morrow and arrived in Albuquerque nearly starved in November 1858. Remaining there for the winter, Udall and some of the others again started for California in 1859 in the company of Lieutenant F. I guess he's doing
Looks
some
like
repair on it.
mountain climbing gear still there.
Was led by Mr. L.J. Rose.
Rose.
He was born in
Oh, there it
Germany
is.
and moved to New Orleans in 1830.
Says he's from Iowa.
He was born in Germany and moved to New Orleans in 1830. He later moved to Iowa, where he became wealthy in the dry goods business. Rose was wounded by Mojave Indians in the attack mentioned by Udall. After recovering from his wounds, he went to Los Angeles and became one of its leading citizens. Where is he?
Up there.
The Union Pacific Railroad. Wow, they hard
Oh,
there.
well, they got up there on that ledge.
Well, the ground was a lot higher at that time.
Well, they probably crawled up there on that ledge, too.
But the project was never carried out. The development of the Santa Fe Railroad 25 miles to the north effectively ended the use of El Morrow as a stopping place. There's good reason to believe that practically all of the names you see here on this point date after 1850.
I bet you are.
Looking west along the rock, you will note that the inscriptions end about where the small juniper is growing. Probably the rough surface beyond the little tree discouraging farthing. Don't stop here. Some of the best of the early Spanish inscriptions await you up the path.
Engraved a rope. Looks like his name is about gone.
Looks like Rose or Bose. Looks like another Rose.
Looks like one of the names is Rose.
See, the ground level at that time probably came up pretty high.
Probably about where that line is there. Or like where that tree is up there. Well, some of these are lower than that tree.
Well, those are probably later.
That rock there, you can see daylight under it.
Yeah, isn't that something? There's Morrow. On this side.
Yeah, in the shade.
Several miles away is a multicolored mesa.
Okay.
It is composed of the same material as El Morrow. was formed about the same time and is approximately the same height. The brighter colors are caused by thin films of iron oxide around the sand grains.
Description.
It says, year of 1716, on the 26th of August, passed by here Don Felez Martinez, governor and captain general of this realm, to the reduction and conquest of the Hopi, and in his company the Reverend Father Friar Antonio Camargo, custodian and judge. Governor Martinez found the Hopis unwilling to accept Spanish domination, and after about 2 months of quarreling, mostly with words and fist shaking, the expedition returned quite unsuccessful to Santa Fe. So he counted his chickens before they hatched right here.
All right.
It didn't work out.
There's another Spanish.
Because they were written on the same day and seemingly in the same handwriting, we presume that this inscription and the one to the west were written by the same man. Well, I gotta catch my breath. The first one says, the 28th, the day of September. Hey, this is the 28th of September.
Oh.
Ah, today is.
1737.
Right,
28th September.
The 28th day of September of 1737.
We're here on his anniversary.
Arrived here the bachelor, Don Juan Ignacio of Arizona. He was a bachelor. Don Juan.
Huh.
The second one reads over here, the 28th day of September of 1737.
Oh, over here.
Arrived here the illustrious Senor Don Martin de Elizacochea, the Bishop of Durango, and the day following went on to Zuni. The good bachelor was a bachelor of laws, not necessarily a single man.
Oh.
The event records one of the first visits to this territory by a bishop from Durango, Mexico. Durango? Is that the same Durango that's in Colorado now?
Probably named after the same person.
Well, I wonder if it was a part of Mexico at that time.
Spanish there. Several lines of it.
Inscriptions on the north side are difficult to photograph because the sun shines around here only a couple of hours per day during the summer. Here is the poem on the right. The poem, of course, does not rhyme when translated into English. Here arrived the Senor and Governor, Don Francisco Manuel de Silva Nieto, whose indubitable arm and valor have overcome the impossible. For the wagons of the King of our Lord, a thing which he alone put into this effect August 5th, 1629, that one may well to Zuni pass and carry the faith.
1629.
It rhymes in Spanish, but not in English.
It's amazing how good that's lasted over all these years.
If you are an enlisted man, you'll appreciate this one. The first two lines of the inscription read, the 14th day of July, 1736, passed by here the General Juan Paz Hurtado, Inspector. The second two lines, no doubt added when the good general's back was turned, read, and in his company the Corporal Joseph Trujillo. We wonder whatever happened to Corporal Trujillo.
Huh. I guess stayed over on this side. Of course, this was back before anybody else ever got here.
Yeah.
They did it probably because this was the cleanest wall.
You are now looking at the longest and one of the most interesting inscriptions on the rock, supposedly done by Governor Ulate. I am the Captain General of Providence of New Mexico, for the King, our Lord, passed by here on a return from the pueblos of Zuni on the 29th of July, the year 1620, and put them at peace at their humble petition. They asking favor as vassals of his majesty and promising anew their obedience, all of which he did with clemency, zeal, and prudence. As a most Christian-like gentleman, extraordinary and gallant soldier of enduring and praised memory. The word crossed out appears to have been gentleman. Somebody who knew the old boy apparently took exception to all this high-flown praise. That the erasure was done before 1849 can be proved.
I wonder if that's what this is right in here. Oh, there's the word crossed out up there.
Well, there's a whole line. That whole thing is crossed out. Look, there's a line through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He put a line through the whole thing, but gentleman, he completely crossed out. And an engineer for the Army, and Mr. R.H. Kern, a Philadelphia artist, who rode around with the Army drawing pictures, were the first English-speaking people to make a record of inscription writing.
Oh, those are the ones he talked about in the video.
Yeah. They spent 2 days copying the inscriptions and stated that when they were here, not a single English inscription could be found on the rock. So this was the first English. Recall the word gentleman crossed out at the last stop. Mr. Kern's drawing faithfully shows the word crossed out just as you saw it. The Spanish inscription below was done by one of 3 Spanish soldiers left to guard 2